So say you were to commit a crime. You would be joining the 1 in every 20 people to serve time in prison in the United States. You would be joining the over 2.2 million people serving time currently in the United States system. And if you're white, you have a 4.4 chance that you will be admitted to prison in your lifetime. But the rate at which blacks are admitted to jail is 28.5%. That's over 6 times the rate white men are admitted to jail. And so why is this? Does this mean that blacks commit more crimes than white people do? Because on the contrary, according to several studies, white people commit crimes at the same rate as black people do. And in some cases, they commit them more often than black people do. So why are black people being admitted at an unproportionally rate compared to white people? While there are many factors that you could point to this, it all really boils down to racial profiling. And while racial profiling is not widely taught in police academies anymore, racial profiling is still something that is ingrained in the American society. Obviously stemming from slavery, the character type of the evil and scary African American man has been portrayed widely, and most notably in the movie The Birth of a Nation, and in many other black-faced filled movies following. These character types, whether we would want to admit it or not, are still present in some American citizens, and it is still ingrained in our society. This notoriously came to light when police officer George Zimmerman attacked and killed Trayvon Martin because police officer Zimmerman believed that because Trayvon was black, he must have been guilty. So once a person has been found guilty of a crime, how is their punishment determined? In an idealized world, criminals will be punished on the basis of their intent and the severity of their crimes, sentenced to times or fines based on a case-by-case basis. So why isn't this the model we strive for? Since the late 1800s, minimum sentencing has been utilized for severe and violent crimes like murder. But in the 1970s, a mass movement of being tough on crime led to minimum sentencing being put in place for all sorts of crime, like non-violent drug offenses. This strips the judges of their power to determine sentencing and justice on a base-by-base case, limiting a judge's ability to make the best and most beneficial decision for all involved. What mandatory minimum sentencing does, essentially, is that it creates an ultimatum in the criminal justice system. In a world of gray, it's making it very black and white for all of the punishment, when in reality, severity of the crime should and has to matter when punishing someone. There's so many factors that need to be involved in someone's punishment, but mandatory minimum sentencing does not allow for that. So even if the members of our society are being over-sentenced for non-violent crimes, the least we can hope is that jail will serve the purpose it is supposed to serve, as a place for offenders to realize the ramifications of their mistakes and pay for the negative aspects of their actions, right? Well, again, the assumed purpose is far from the truth. With a rising population of inmates above 2.2 million individuals, our country has the highest incarceration rate in the world. That means that we have more people locked up in our country than Russia does. We do not want to have more incarcerated people than Russia. In comparison, we have more people locked up in our prison system than there are people living in Slovenia. We have an entire country essentially locked up in our prison system. And because of these high rates and escalating rates, we have started putting our prisoners in private prisons. A private prison, in short, is a business revolved around making profit off high numbers of inmates staying in their jails. These prisons place in a number of practices into use, focusing on keeping inmates in jail, sometimes even past their sentence time. And with the money they make off having the high number of inmates in their system, they invest it back into pressuring lawmakers to continue to enforce legislation that continues mandatory sentencing for non-violent crimes, keeping the incarceration rate through the roof. So say an inmate is able to fight the broken system and manages to finish her sentence and is released back into the public. And leaving prison can be a positive experience, as there are many federal programs and outreach programs dedicated to getting prison inmates jobs and returning them back to the public and helping them create a happy and healthy and beneficial life for themselves. But for many of state prisoners released back into the public, they do not have those kind of benefits and happy stories to tell. That's because over 76.6% of all prisoners released in 30 states were rearrested and put back in jail within 5 years of their release. High revisitism can be caused by a number of reasons, and one of those reasons is highlighted in Russell Brand's documentary From Addiction to Recovery in 2012. In that documentary, he touches on how felons are often released back into the public, oftentimes right back into the situation that got them in jail in the first place. And for someone who's dealing with a drug-related crime, being put back into the situation in which that they were staying in before they had gotten arrested is crippling mentally, because it's putting you right back in the situation that you got addicted in the first place, or were addicted in the first place. This basically takes away all of the work that they and withdrawal that they went through in prison to become clean, which is what makes them very susceptible to being caught again with drugs and going back into jail right where they started. And as the reincarnation rate is incredibly high, it is safe to say that the judicial and the criminal system is a cycle. One big, long, broken cycle. And the biggest influencer in fixing that cycle is the legislative and the government systems. And through Obama's 2 terms, crime rate went down 5% for the entire duration of his presidency, contrasting widely the rising incarceration rates of previous presidents, like Reagan with a 78% increase, or 32% increase under George W. Bush's presidency. And with our current president strongly advocating for law and order and private prisons, it is easy to assume and to expect Obama's decline in incarceration rates to completely diminish, and to begin increasing incarceration rates once more. So, in summary, our system is broken. It is terribly broken, but that does not mean that hope is lost. What it does mean is that being compliant with the system and not making your voice heard is allowing policemen to continue to racial profile, allowing private prisons to continue to pressure government officials to keep incarceration rates high, and it allows the injustice of the prison system to continue. So if you care about basic human rights, get a hold of your congressmen and women representatives and let them know. Fixing the private prison system, or the prison system in general, is not an easy task. It includes a lot of different legislation at a lot of different levels, and it also includes changing of an attitude towards the criminal system and criminals in general, of which are really, really hard things to do, as culture is not really something that you can control with a heavy hand. But yeah, in final summary, the prison system is terrible, and if you're a person of color, you're screwed. So, yeah.